Give me 100 days, and I'll change your life with Python. Most people quit before this stage. Don't be one of them. If you can survive 100 days of coding, you become unstoppable. There was a time when I believed my life was already decided. I had done everything right. I completed my academic journey in finance, followed the traditional path, and stood exactly where society expects you to stand, degree in hand, future secure, life predictable. But something fell off. Not wrong, just incomplete. It was like living inside a story that didn't belong to me. Every day felt the same. Numbers, reports, calculations, repeat. There was no excitement, no curiosity, no spark. Just a quiet question in my mind. Is this really it? I didn't have the answer. But life has a strange way of sending the right people at the right time. And for me, that moment came through a friend. Not just any friend. One of those rare, good-hearted people who don't just talk. They see something in you before you see it yourself. One day, in a completely casual conversation, he said something that changed everything. Why don't you try coding? Coding? At that time, it sounded like something distant, complicated, maybe even boring. But something about the way he said it made me pause. It wasn't just a suggestion. It was an invitation. An invitation to step into something unknown. And sometimes, that's all it takes. So I gave it a try. No big expectations. No big dreams. Just curiosity. Like most beginners, I started with C++. And honestly, it was painful. Confusing syntax, strange errors, endless lines of code that made no sense. I would stare at the screen for hours, trying to understand what was going on. Sometimes I felt like the computer was speaking a completely different language, and I was just lost. But I didn't stop there. I thought maybe C++ wasn't for me. So I moved to Java, then HTML, then CSS, then JavaScript, one after another. It felt like I was exploring every corner of the coding world, trying to find something that clicked. I even stepped into web development, built small projects, played with designs, wrote code that actually worked, then moved towards software development, learned concepts, understood logic, created things from scratch. From the outside, it looked like progress, but inside, something still felt missing. There was no excitement, no deep connection, no moment where I could say, yes, this is it. Instead, coding started to feel like a burden, something I had to do, not something I wanted to do. And slowly, that feeling grew stronger. There comes a point in every journey where you have to make a decision. Continue or walk away. For me, that moment came quietly. No drama, no big failure, just a realization. This isn't working. So I did what many people do. I stopped. I left coding behind, closed that chapter, and moved on. That's when I discovered something new, something that felt easier, more exciting, more alive. YouTube automation. No heavy coding, no complex logic, just creativity, strategy, and content. It felt refreshing, like a fresh start. And for the first time in a while, I thought, maybe this is my path. I invested my time into it, learned how content works, understood trends, explored storytelling, built systems, and slowly, I started growing in that space. But here's the thing about life. Sometimes, the path you think is your destination is actually just a bridge. Because while I was busy building something new, life was quietly preparing me for something bigger. Something I had already seen, but never truly understood. Something I had touched, but never truly felt. Something that was about to change everything. That thing was Python. Life has a funny way of bringing things back. Not to repeat the past, but to give you a second chance to see it differently. At that point, I'd already made peace with coding. Or at least, I thought I had. I had tried it, struggled with it, walked away from it. And now, I was focused on YouTube automation, building something that finally felt natural, creative, and exciting. But deep down, there was still a small, quiet voice. Not loud enough to disturb me, but strong enough to stay. A voice that whispered, maybe you didn't try the right way. And just like before, it started with a simple suggestion. Someone said, if you didn't like other languages, try Python. Python? At first, I didn't take it seriously. I'd already been through C++, Java, JavaScript. What difference could one more language make? To me, coding was coding. Difficult, boring, frustrating. So I ignored it for a while. But curiosity is a powerful thing. It doesn't argue. It doesn't force. It just stays. Every now and then, I would hear about Python. People saying, it's easy, it's beginner-friendly, it's powerful, it's everywhere, and slowly, that curiosity started growing. Until one day I decided, let me just try it one last time. Not to build a career, not to prove anything, just to see what it actually feels like. I still remember that moment. I opened my laptop, installed Python, wrote my first simple line of code, and something strange happened. For the first time, coding didn't feel heavy. It didn't feel confusing. It didn't feel like a battle. It felt natural, simple syntax, readable code, no unnecessary complexity. It was like the language was trying to help me, not fight me. And that was new. This time, I wasn't forcing myself. I wasn't thinking, I have to learn this. Instead, it felt like, I want to explore this. And that small shift changed everything. I started understanding concepts faster. Things that once felt complicated now felt manageable, even enjoyable. Errors didn't frustrate me as much. They became part of the process, a puzzle to solve, not a wall to stop me. In the beginning, it was still slow. Let's be real, nothing becomes magical overnight. There were moments of confusion, moments where I doubted myself. Again, moments where I thought, what if this also ends the same way? But this time, I didn't quit, because something inside me knew this feels different. I stopped relying on motivation, because motivation comes and goes. Instead, I made a simple rule. Just show up every day, even if it's for 30 minutes, even if I don't feel like it, even if I don't understand everything. Just show up. That was it. No pressure, no perfection, just consistency. And here's something I realized early. Most people don't fail because something is hard. They fail because they stop too soon. They never give themselves enough time to become comfortable. They expect results in days from something that requires weeks or months. And I had made that mistake before. With every language I tried, I jumped too quickly, quit too early, moved on too fast. But not this time. This time, I made a promise to myself. I will give this 100 days, no matter what. No excuses, no quitting, no squeeching, just Python. Every day. I didn't know it yet, but that decision, that simple commitment, was the turning point of my life. Because those first 100 days were not just about learning Python. They were about rebuilding myself, my discipline, my patience, my mindset. And slowly, without even realizing it, I was stepping into a completely different version of myself. At first, the changes were small, almost invisible. A concept understood, a problem solved, a small project completed. But day by day, those small wins started adding up. And something inside me started growing. Confidence. I wasn't the same person anymore. The one who once said, coding is boring, was now sitting for hours, enjoying it, learning it, living it. And for the first time, I felt something I had been missing for a long time. Progress. Real progress. Not just movement, but direction. But here's the truth. This was just the beginning. Because what happened next, in those 100 days, was something I never expected. Something that didn't just change my skills, it changed my life. All right, this is where the real transformation begins. I made a promise to myself, 100 days. No excuses. At first, it sounded simple. Just 100 days. But when you actually commit to something like that, you realize very quickly it's not easy. The first few days felt familiar. Not exciting. Not magical. Just resistance. Sitting in front of the screen. Opening tutorials. Trying to focus. But my mind would wander. Sometimes I understood things. Sometimes I didn't. And that old voice came back. This is boring. You've been here before. The difference this time? I didn't listen. I didn't negotiate with myself. I just followed one rule. Show up. Every single day. Even if I learned nothing. Even if I felt nothing. I showed up. This is where most people quit. Because now, it gets uncomfortable. Concepts start stacking up. Variables, loops, functions, conditions, data structures. Individually, they make sense. But together, it feels like chaos. You forget things. You mix things up. You doubt yourself. I remember thinking, am I really made for this? But here's the truth I discovered. Confusion is not failure. It's a sign that your brain is growing. So instead of running from it, I leaned into it. I stopped trying to understand everything perfectly. Instead, I focused on repetition. Write the same code again. Break it. Fix it. Change it. Run it again. Slowly, patterns started forming. And things that once looked complicated started to feel familiar. And then, something clicked. Not all at once, but piece by piece. I could read code and actually understand it. I could write small programs without constantly searching for help. I could solve problems on my own. That feeling? It's hard to explain. But if you've ever struggled with something for a long time, and then suddenly it starts making sense, you know exactly what I mean. It's addictive. This is when I stopped just learning and started building. Small projects at first. A simple calculator, a number guessing game, basic automation scripts. Nothing fancy, but they were mine. And that mattered. Because for the first time, I wasn't just consuming knowledge. I was creating something with it. Somewhere around this phase, something unexpected happened. I stopped seeing myself as a beginner. I started thinking like a problem solver. Instead of saying, I don't know this, I started saying, let me figure this out. That shift, it changes everything. Now it wasn't about motivation anymore. Because motivation fades. What stayed was discipline. Even on days when I didn't feel like coding, I coded. Even on days when progress felt slow, I continued. Because I knew something most people ignore. Consistency beats intensity. You don't need to do 10 hours a day. You need to do it every day. By the time I reached the last 20 days, I wasn't the same person anymore. Things that once scared me now felt easy. Problems that once took hours now took minutes. I could build things faster, think clearer, learn quicker, and most importantly, I believed in myself. Here's what those 100 days really did. They didn't just teach me Python. They made me undefeatable. Not because I knew everything, but because I knew one thing for sure. I can learn anything if I stay consistent. People look for shortcuts, fast results, quick success, but they ignore the most important phase, the first 100 days. Because that's where you build discipline, you develop focus, you create momentum. After that, everything becomes easier. Not because the work changes, but because you change. One day, I looked back at where I started, confused, frustrated, ready to quit. And then I looked at where I was, building, understanding, growing, and I smiled. Because I finally understood something. Python didn't just change my skills. It changed my life. Because once you reach this point, new doors start opening. Opportunities you never imagined. Paths you never considered. And a future that suddenly feels limitless. By the end of those 100 days, I wasn't just learning anymore. I was ready. Not perfect, not an expert, but capable. And in today's world, capable is enough to start. Something interesting happens when you reach this stage. You stop asking, can I do this? And start asking, where can I apply this? That question changed everything. Because now, Python wasn't just a language. It was a tool that could solve real problems, save time, create systems, generate income. At first, I didn't jump into big projects. I started small, very small, writing simple automation scripts, organizing data, solving tiny problems that people usually ignore. Things most people overlook, but businesses value, because time is money. And if you can save time, you create value. This is where Python truly shines. I realized something powerful. While others were doing repetitive tasks manually, I could automate them. A task that takes 2 hours, done in minutes. A process that requires effort every day, now runs automatically. And suddenly, I wasn't just learning Python. I was using it to make life easier. Not just mine, but for others too. I started exploring more areas. Data handling, web scraping, automation tools, simple backend logic. And every new concept felt like unlocking a new ability. It was like leveling up in a game. Except this time, the rewards were real. Before Python, I used to hesitate, doubt myself, avoid opportunities. But now, something had changed. When a problem came in front of me, instead of stepping back, I stepped forward and said, yes, I can try. Not I'm sure. Not I'm perfect. Just I'll figure it out. And that mindset alone opened doors. Remember YouTube automation? The thing I moved into after leaving coding? Now something unexpected happened. Both worlds started connecting. I began using Python to automate parts of content workflows, manage data, speed up repetitive tasks, improve efficiency, and suddenly, I had an advantage. While others were working harder, I was working smarter. This is something most people don't realize. When you combine skills, you become rare. I wasn't just someone doing YouTube. I wasn't just someone learning Python. I became someone who could merge both worlds. And that's where real growth happens. I remember the days when coding felt boring, heavy, pointless. And now, it felt powerful, creative, limitless. The same thing I once rejected became the thing that gave me direction. Python didn't just change what I do. It changed how I think. I started seeing problems differently. Instead of this is difficult, this can be solved. Instead of this takes time, this can be automated. Instead of I don't know, I can learn. That shift is everything. Because once your thinking changes, your results follow. Let's be honest. Skills are important. But opportunities? They come when skills meet consistency and visibility. I started exploring freelancing, small gigs, online platforms, real-world use cases, nothing huge in the beginning. But step by step, things started building. At this stage, the growth becomes visible. Not just to you, but to others. People start noticing. Opportunities start appearing. And slowly, you move from try to learn something to becoming someone valuable. One day it hit me. Everything I struggled with before, everything I left, everything that felt like wasted time, was actually preparing me for this moment. C++, Java, JavaScript, web development, none of it was useless. It all built a foundation. But Python was the key that unlocked it all. At this point, I understood something clearly. This journey was never just about coding. It was about finding direction, building discipline, creating opportunities, and becoming someone I wasn't before. I was just getting started. Because once you reach this level, you don't go back. You only go forward. At some point, it stopped being about Python and started being about who I was becoming. Because skills can change your income, but mindset changes your life. Before this journey, I used to think in limits. This is hard. This will take too long. Maybe this isn't for me. But after those months of consistency, something rewired inside me. Now my thinking sounded like, break it down, try again. There's always a solution. That shift isn't small. It's everything. I realized something most people ignore. Motivation is temporary. Discipline is permanent. There were days I didn't feel like coding. Days I was tired. Days I wanted to skip. But I didn't. Because I wasn't relying on feelings anymore. I was relying on a system, a habit, a standard. And once discipline takes over, you become dangerous in a good way. Every single day, I showed up. Something small improved. Maybe just 1%. Maybe less. But over time, that 1% became massive. This is what people don't see. They see results. But they don't see the daily repetition behind them. The quiet effort. The unseen hours. Python was no longer just a skill. It became a power tool. Something I could use anytime, anywhere. Need to automate something? Done. Need to build something? Possible. Need to solve something? Let's figure it out. And that feeling? It gives you confidence that no degree alone can give. Before, I thought income came from one path. One job. One direction. But now, I saw multiple possibilities. Freelancing, automation services, building tools, supporting content creation, scaling online systems. It wasn't just about earning. It was about freedom. Freedom to choose. Freedom to experiment. Freedom to grow. My thinking expanded. I stopped focusing only on today and started thinking about where I can be in 1 year, what I can build in 3 years, how far I can go if I stay consistent, because now I had proof. Proof that change is possible. Finance, coding, YouTube, automation. At first, they felt like separate chapters. But now, they started connecting. Finance gave me understanding of value. YouTube gave me creativity. Python gave me execution power. And when you combine knowledge like that, you don't just follow opportunities. You create them. There's a different kind of confidence. The one that doesn't come from words, but from experience. From showing up every day. From struggling and not quitting. From solving problems again and again. That confidence is quiet, but powerful. And once you have it, no one can take it away from you. Let's be honest. Most people never reach this stage. Not because they're not capable, but because they quit too early. They stop in the confusion phase, the boring phase, the difficult phase. They never reach the breakthrough. Never reach the confidence. Never reach this level. When I say undefeatable, I don't mean you'll never fail. You will, again and again. But now, failure doesn't stop you. It teaches you, because you've built something stronger than skill, resilience. If someone met me before this journey, and then met me now, they wouldn't see the same person. Not because I changed everything overnight, but because I stayed consistent long enough for real change to happen. Looking back, it wasn't complicated. There was no secret shortcut. Just three things: consistency, focus, patience. That's it. But applied daily, they become unstoppable. The real win wasn't Python. The real win was this. I proved to myself that I could transform my life. And once you prove that to yourself, you stop doubting what's possible. Because this journey, it doesn't stop here. It evolves, grows, expands. And what comes next is even bigger. Let's finish this story the right way, with impact. If you ask me today, how did Python change your life? I wouldn't just talk about coding. I wouldn't just talk about income. I wouldn't just talk about opportunities. I would say this: Python didn't change my life. It revealed what I was capable of, from finance to confusion, from C++, Java, web development to quitting, from YouTube, automation, to rediscovering coding again. And finally, finding Python. It wasn't a straight path. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And that's what matters. If there's one thing this journey taught me, it's this: you don't fail because something is difficult. You fail because you stop too soon. I stopped before, many times, switched paths, got bored, lost interest. But the moment I decided to stay consistent, everything changed. Those first 100 days, they are everything. That's where you build your habits, you fight your doubts, you create your foundation. Most people quit in this phase. That's why most people never see results. But if you can push through those 100 days, you become different, stronger, focused, undefeatable. Let me be clear, it doesn't mean life becomes easy. It means you become stronger than your excuses. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop fearing failure. You stop doubting every step. And you start moving forward no matter what. This isn't just about Python. This applies to everything: coding, business, content creation, any skill you want to master. The formula is always the same. Consistency plus focus plus time equals results. No shortcuts. No magic. Just discipline. If you're someone who is feeling stuck, confused about your path, starting something new, or thinking about quitting, then listen carefully. You're closer than you think. But you're judging yourself too early. You're expecting results too fast. You're quitting before the transformation begins. My life didn't change because of luck. It changed because of one simple decision. I will give this 100 days. That's it. Not forever. Not perfection. Just 100 days of focus. And that decision changed everything. So now the question is not about me. It's about you. What is that one thing that you've been avoiding? That one skill? That one opportunity? That one step you should take? I'm not going to tell you to change your whole life overnight. Just do this. Give it 100 days. Show up every day. Stay consistent. Stay focused. No excuses. No quitting. No squeaking. Just commitment. On the other side of those 100 days is a different version of you. More confident. More skilled. More focused. And ready for opportunities you can't even see right now. I started as someone who thought coding was boring. Someone who quit. Someone who was unsure. And today, I can say with confidence, that decision to learn Python was one of the best decisions of my life. Your life doesn't change when you find the perfect opportunity. It changes when you decide to stay consistent with the right one.